Peace, peace. It's your girl Morgan Renee Myers tuning in for another story time with more of my baby. We finishing up this book today, right now. Okay, it's October. I've probably been in this book about 5 months. Ridiculous. Chapter 28. We're just getting right into it. Trying to Sleep in a Bed You Made by Virginia D. Berry and Donna Grant. You may see me stop and pause to sip some of my cinnamon clove tea. Shout out to my grandmother, Dot Silver, who just transitioned earlier this week. She used to like to boil cinnamon just to have the house smelling good. I like to boil it and then drink it and let it not go to waste. So, little cinnamon, little cloves, little agave. Sometimes I put some cayenne in. I didn't mean to put some cayenne in, but all right, let's hop right into it. It's a lot of drama going on at the end of this book. Short recap from the last few chapters. Patricia Reed ran into her old girlfriend Gail Saunders, and when they was little, they had a lot of life stuff happen and split and ain't talked in a while. Gail life has went down the hill after she married Ramsey. Had a daughter named Vanessa. Ramsey was a gambler and went off. Supposedly had a debt, then went and killed himself. Wrote a note. At least he said, somewhere in my spirit, I don't think he really killed himself, but we'll see in these next few chapters if I'm wrong or not. She ends up in a shelter because her daughter and mother had a house fire while she was gone. And the daughter jumped out the window, so she got a broken arm. The mama dead. Patricia goes to the center where Gail is staying to visit another little girl and ends up seeing Gail there and invited back to her home. But she just recently married Marcus, who is their childhood friend that Gail had a crush on and intended to marry as a jit, but they never did, and they split ways and hadn't talked to each other since. And now Patricia is married to him all randomly, and then he finally comes home early from his trip out doing whatever he do with baseball and marketing, and Gail and her daughter is there, and Patricia hadn't told him. So here we go, chapter 28. Maybe we can all be friends and maybe we can't. How could you not tell me? Gail came out of the bedroom where she retreated while the fight was raging. This isn't your business, Gail. Pat sat on the sofa hugging her throw pillow. How could you not tell him I was here? We didn't wait Vanessa. No. Gail perched on the arm of the couch. And you're right, it isn't my business. So first thing in the morning, we're out of here. We shouldn't have come in the first place. Yes, you should have. What the hell is wrong with him? Was I supposed to leave you and Vanessa like I didn't know you? If Marcus can't accept it, tough. You should have told him. Nothing's worse in a marriage than secrets. Look at me. It wasn't a secret. I was going to tell him, but obviously I've made one huge mistake. If he thinks I have to ask his permission to do every little thing just because we're married, he's got another thing coming. Pat jumped up and snatched her handbag from the chair by the door. I need a damn cigarette. You quit, remember? And you know inviting us to live here is not a little thing. I asked you the other day if there was somebody in your life. You said it's too soon. Too soon? You're married to the man. If my head is spinning because you forgot to mention that the somebody was Marcus, can you imagine how he feels finding me here? The time was never right. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how you would take it. You and Marcus were, I know it was over years ago, but what was I supposed to say? I'm sorry to hear about all your troubles, Gail. Come and live with me and my husband. And by the way, he's your old boyfriend? Pat dumped the contents of her bag on the coffee table. Why didn't you tell him? That's who called late at night, isn't it? You had the chance. I thought I'd have more time to figure out the best way to tell both of you. He was supposed to be gone for another week yet. She dropped the purse on the floor. He called full of news about his trip. I never found the right moment. We just did this stupid marriage thing a few weeks ago, and he's been away most of it. I don't even feel married, whatever that is. Pat headed for the hall. There's got to be a cigarette here. Gail followed. You know, I heard about Marcus getting married. Inside info, that was it. I went to get Vanessa and Mildred had it on, but I left as soon as I heard his name. I didn't want an excuse to be thinking of what if it was me, because I know that's just me feeling sorry for myself. I've had a lot of practice lately. I guess I should have watched. Pat rummaged through the drawer in the hall table and avoided eye contact with Gail. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, and Marcus hadn't seen you in years. As far as either of us knew, you were a happy housewife in Westchester or whatever. Damn it, I can't believe there's not a cigarette here. Even if I had been around, what would that change? Would you feel any different? I don't know. I'm not even sure how I feel. You married him. You have to feel something. I don't know, Gail. We always had a connection, I guess, even way back then. But it wasn't like, I didn't like him like that when you two... I'm babbling, aren't I? Listen, Marcus and I had our little thing because we did. We were kids. We didn't know anything. You remember way back in the beginning, I had the crush on Freddie. Marcus was just another dumb boy in our class, but I put up with him because he was Freddie's little brother. Gail talked to Pat's reflection in the hall mirror. When I said I didn't want to know about him getting married, it was because I still loved him. I don't know if I ever did. Wait a minute, let me back up. Gail talks to Pat's reflection in the hall mirror. When I said I didn't want to know about him getting married, it wasn't because I still loved him. I don't know if I ever did. We probably should have just been friends. Gail turned and looked straight at Pat. What it boils down to is this. Do you love him? Doesn't this sound crazy? I'm the one asking if you love Marcus. Love doesn't make him my boss. Her frantic search for cigarettes moved on to the coats in the hall closet. That's what this is really about, isn't it, Pat? I don't need him to... You never needed anybody, did you? I needed my parents. I needed you. I needed Ramsey, dumb as that seems. I need Vanessa, but you never needed one single solitary soul, did you? Needing someone makes you human, Pat, not weak. It makes you vulnerable. You get hurt. Trust me, I've been there. Pat slammed the closet door and leaned against it. How do you think Marcus feels now? You don't think he's hurt? You invited us to live here. Not only didn't you ask his opinion, you didn't even consider it. Even if you had a dog, you think about how he feels before you brought a cat home, wouldn't you? That doesn't give him the right. Pat sank to the floor. Gail sat down beside her. He has every right, Pat. Every right. We're going to leave. And go where? The armory? Your place at the center is long gone. You have to stay here. I want you to stay. What about what Marcus wants? He's your husband, Pat. I know you thought I was nuts to marry Ramsey, but I loved him, and I wanted to make him happy. I think he wanted to make me happy, too, but it got lost, and all the secrets he kept. But you didn't know Ramsey was sick. They sat side by side on the floor, their legs stretched across the hall. Maybe if I paid more attention to us and less to our precious image, I would have seen we had problems. I don't know if I could have helped him, but at least I'd have faced. Ooh, that's a conjunction. I''D''E. Good Lord. But at least I'd have faced what was going on before it exploded. My marriage was a disaster, but that doesn't mean I had the wrong idea, just that I had the wrong person. I don't think you have the wrong person. He's so hard-headed. Pat coiled a stray piece of string around her finger. You're no slouch in the hard-head department. Remember, if anybody knew you win, it's me. Gail found a peppermint in her robe pocket. You want this? Yeah. Pat tore off the wrapper and sucked the candy, inhaling the mint like it had a menthol 100. I can't let you leave. When I had nowhere to go, y'all gave me a home. You belong here. And what about Vanessa? You know she needs physical therapy. Look, Pat, we found each other again, and nothing will change that, but I won't get in the way of you and Marcus. Call him. Tell him we're leaving. Tell him we're sorry. I don't know, Gail. Pat yawned. It's late. I can't make much sense now. The phone rang, and Marcus strained to focus on his watch. Who in the hell is calling me at 6:30 on a Saturday morning? The week since the fight had been filled with restless days, followed by sleepless nights. He'd only dozed off 2 hours ago. Yeah? Sorry to disturb you. Pat's hand trembled when she dialed the number. Now she tried to keep her voice from doing the same. Marcus scrambled to sit up on the sofa like he didn't want her to know that he'd been sleeping. I was up. I need a favor. Well, not for me exactly, so that might help you consider it. What's that supposed to mean? Never mind. Sorry. Are you? Will you help me or not, Marcus? I can't answer that until you tell me what you want. It's Vanessa. Who? Gail's daughter. I didn't get to tell you what happened to them, but Vanessa got hurt pretty badly jumping from a window during the fire last August. What fire? The one where Gail's mother died and they lost whatever they had left that Ramsey hadn't already logged gambling. That's how they ended up at the shelter. I have told you if you hadn't jumped down my throat telling me how wrong I was. I'm very sorry about Gail's misfortunes, but get to the point. The point is Vanessa's doctors haven't done a bad job, but I think your team at ISI can make a big difference. It's the Institute for Sports Injuries. I don't think falling out a window qualifies. You know as well as I do, they fix broken jocks whether they fell off a ladder cleaning the gutter or got trampled by a football team. So I know you can help a little girl. There was a pause, and Pat wanted to reach through the line and touch him. I don't know. Why don't you know? Forget about Gail. Forget about us. We're not the issue. She's a little girl, Marcus. Yeah, right. I'll think about it, okay? How's she going to pay for this? If they take her as a patient, I'll pay the bill. I see. See what, Marcus? You adopted both of them, huh? You seem to have forgotten that if it hadn't been for Gail and her family, who knows where I'd be today. I haven't forgotten. I just think you would have made it to the top no matter what. Remember, you're the one who likes to fly solo. I have to go, Marcus. He told her he'd be in Philadelphia most of the week, gave her the name of the hotel. Not that it matters to you. If you want help, don't keep me waiting. I'll need to find somebody who will. Pat hung up and fell back into her pillows. She'd been planning the call for 2 days, and since 5 this morning, she'd been trying to anticipate what he would say, rehearsing her replies, hoping something would break the ice. But now it was over. She had talked to him and nothing was any different. How can I choose between him and Gail? How? All week, Pat had avoided making a choice. She steered Gail away from her conversation about Marcus and focused on their new venture. Pat lost herself in creating detailed projections for their business plan. She got estimates from printers, worked out a preliminary timetable and the beginnings of a budget. Then she tried to pull Gail into her frenzy, insisting she come up with at least a dozen new story ideas, the sooner the better. But despite her attempt to fill every second, Marcus still crept into her thoughts. Those warm afternoons aboard Keeper would float through her mind before she would drown them out with work. In unguarded moments, she'd hear him say, I love you, I guess I have for years, and have to shake off the tingle that shot through her body. I love you too. She would force herself back to the task at hand. When Pat finally recovered from her early morning phone call enough to drag out of bed, Vanessa was sitting on the sofa watching cartoons. Her bad leg was propped on the pillow. Good morning. Vanessa never looked away from her screen. What you watching? Nothing. She flicked off the remote and got up. You don't have to, Pat found herself talking to Vanessa's back as she limped down the hall. Pat had decided not to mention she'd asked Marcus to help Vanessa until he said yes. Even then, Pat expected knockdown, drag out, getting Gail to accept it. She found Gail in the kitchen sipping tea and poring over the want ads. You giving up on our business? Dreams are fine, Pat, but I gotta have a paycheck now. Putting my life back together is not your responsibility. I didn't say it was. Besides, nobody's hiring this time of year. Pat took a carton of orange juice from the refrigerator. This is hard for me to ask. If you could lend me enough to get a place, nothing fancy. We could go back to Mount Vernon. I could try to get my old job back. At least they'll give me a good recommendation. I'll help you in any way I can, but don't give up on L. Crawford. We haven't even tried yet. Speaking of trying, have you tried apologizing to Marcus yet? Why? Pat poured a glass of juice. Because the longer you avoid each other, the harder it's going to be. Don't use Vanessa and me to forget your own life needs tending to. Thank you for those words of wisdom. I promise I'll talk to Marcus. Pat crossed her heart the way she did when they were kids. Gail lay awake that night. Despite the perky act, she could see that Pat was hurting. She had only seen Pat and Marcus together arguing, but in her heart, she felt they were right for each other. I gotta do something. I let her down the last time. I won't do it again. Since the fire, Gail had been too overwhelmed to make plans. Getting through each day took all her energy. When she tried to look ahead, it felt as if she had so far to travel just to get back to square one that she couldn't bring herself to the first step until now. She didn't have it all figured out by the morning, but she had come up with a way to proceed. Take small steps, baby ones if necessary, but find a way to keep moving forward. It's better than standing still. Ooh, that cinnamon clove heat you up, baby. The young man struggled with groceries, but he smiled and propped the door open for Gail with his foot. Good, I can get upstairs. She found out where he lived from the address book Pat kept on the desk in her bedroom. On the top floor, Gail took a deep breath in front of PHC and pressed the buzzer. Just a sec. She heard rustling footsteps. Then the lock clicked. I know I'm the last person you want to see, Marcus. Wait a minute. What? You're right. He leaned against the partially open door. He was barefoot and his t-shirt was half tucked into his rumpled jeans. Hear me out, please. You shouldn't be here. This ain't your business. Of course it is. If I had been around, none of this would have happened. Gail squeezed the strap of her shoulder bag. Small steps. Are we going to have this conversation in the hall or can I come in? Suit yourself. Marcus stepped aside and she walked past him but didn't go any further than the foyer. She's so skinny. Her tweed coat looked 2 sizes too big. Gail started straight in. I didn't know about you and Pat. Not until you showed up. I wouldn't have been there if I knew, and I'm sorry. She shifted the purse on her shoulder. But maybe I can help fix it. Marcus, Pat should have told you. Pat's a big girl. She knows where I am if she wants to talk. She'd probably kill me if she knew I came down here. So maybe you should go. Or is this a part of the plan to get me to help? He folded his arms across his chest. You don't have to go through this little routine. I'm going to do it. Do what? I'll make the arrangements first thing in the morning. They'll take her. Don't worry. So you can stop the act. Who'll take who? Come on, Gail. What are you talking about? He studied her face, but couldn't read anything but worry. Pat didn't tell you? She asked me to have my orthopedic team take a look at your daughter. No, she did not. Gail dropped her head a minute, then looked up again. And thank you, but no thank you. I didn't come in to ask you for help. But Pat said your little girl was... I'll talk to Pat when I get back. That's between me and her. But now I need to talk to you. We were friends once, so maybe for old time's sake, you'll let me say what I came to? Then I'll go. She waited for an answer. I'm barely hanging on here, Marcus. Give me a break, please. Yeah, all right. He walked into the living room, gathered up the Sunday paper strewn across the sofa and floor. You may as well sit. Gail sat on the very edge of the couch playing with her knit gloves. Pat is wrong. She should have told you Vanessa and I was there, but she was trying to do a good thing, Marcus. I really believe she didn't know how to tell you, or me for that matter, but don't hold her responsible because of what happened between you and me. This has nothing to do with it, Gail. Marcus stood in front of the fireplace. No, I have a lot to apologize for. I shouldn't have tried to trap you into marrying me, Marcus, and I treated you really terrible that Sunday you stopped by and Ramsey showed up. You deserve better. I was young and stupid, and truth be told, I was tripping on it a little. What I did to you was bad, but it was probably saved us from a bigger mistake. A flicker of a smile crossed her face. Think about it. Gail, I'm not holding a grudge. She held up her hand. Let me finish. All these years I've known that if I hadn't pretended I had to go to the bathroom so I could delay having to take my lousy report card home, Freddie wouldn't be dead. Don't you know that's why we hooked up in the first place? We didn't choose each other, Marcus. We got all caught up in that horrible afternoon. We didn't know what else to do, so we stayed together. Marcus moved to the window across the room. A few aimless snowflakes drifted by. None of us were to blame for what happened to Freddie. It took me years to see that. I've made a mess of my life and other people too. I can't let that happen with you and Pat. Not because of me. She shoved the gloves into her pocket. There's another thing I have to tell you. She took a deep breath. It was my fault the story about Freddie got out. Marcus whipped around. You're the one who told? I told Ramsey. He was my husband. It just came up one day, but I swear I never told that TV show anything. A detective told me it had to do with Ramsey's gambling. I don't understand exactly how. I do know he never got over the fact that I used to go with the famous rich Marcus Carter. The bigger you got, the madder it made him. He couldn't seem to accept that I loved him. Gail's voice trailed off. I never thought he would do a thing like that, but it seems he did a lot of things I didn't think he was capable of. Do you know what I went through behind that? Marcus snapped. I would have done anything to stop him if I had known. You have to believe me. He's dead? Yes. Gail walked over to Marcus. I'm so sorry for Freddie and Ramsey, and I'm sorry for laying a smack in the middle of your new life. Yeah, well, Marcus, I can't stand your pity, and I don't deserve your sympathy. Whatever you have to say it to Pat. Vanessa and I will move as soon as we can find a place to go. Maybe we can all be friends, and maybe we can't. But don't let this ruin what you and Pat have going. Enough has been ruined already. Tentatively, she placed her hand on his arm, then moved it away. We both know how stubborn Pat is, especially if she's scared, which we also know she'll never admit. And the more hurt she is, the more stubborn she gets. He was quiet for a moment. How can I love her if she won't let me? You have to try. I think Pat shuts the door herself before it gets slammed in her face. That's kind of what happened with us. Gail put on her gloves. At least say you'll think about it. She moved toward the door. Yeah, okay, I will. He followed her into the hall. Take Vanessa to my doctor's. I'd like to help. Marcus, can we make a deal? She smiled. Okay, I'll think about it. On the subway ride uptown, Gail wondered if her visit did any good. She pulled the new help wanted section out of her purse and found the picking slimmer than last week, but she made a mental note to call Cameron and Ware in the morning and ask for a recommendation. And maybe I'll apply at employment agencies too, even if they don't have openings now. I'll be on file for the start of the year. Just keep taking little steps. Your mother didn't say where she was going or when she'd be back? Pat was still half asleep when Gail knocked and asked Pat to keep an eye on Vanessa. No. Vanessa hunched over the dining room table reading Pat's new Kwanzaa book. A partially done jigsaw puzzle of a mountain scene lay in front of her. Do you usually celebrate Kwanzaa? No. Would you like to this year? Vanessa shrugged her shoulders and kept reading. Pat turned to walk away, then came back. You know you're making all this extra hard on yourself, your mother, and on me. Why? Vanessa closed the book, picked up a puzzle piece, but didn't open her mouth. We're all doing the best we can under pretty rotten circumstances, but you don't seem to want to help. Vanessa rolled her eyes and swirled the puzzle piece. I'm talking to you, Vanessa. Pat felt her anger rising. So, She jammed the piece in place and pounded it with her fist. So, I know your mother taught you better. And if she did, and your grandmother did, I'm an adult. You are not. Pat pulled out a chair and sat across from her. Vanessa, I know how much your life has changed in the last year. I know it's hard. You don't know anything. Vanessa shoved the puzzle away. You have everything. You never lived in a shelter, and your father didn't, I guess your mother didn't tell you much about me, did she? Vanessa stared at her. Neither of my folks wanted me. My grandmother took me in, but she died when I was 5. Pat filled her in on the details Gail had omitted. So however nice you think my life is now, it hasn't always been like this. It wouldn't be like this now if it weren't for your mother and your grandparents. I'm sorry you never knew your grandfather. I call him Uncle Joe, and he was very special. Vanessa traced the shapes of the puzzle pieces with her finger. Then I wish he had been around instead of my father. It's all his fault. Since he left us, only bad things have happened. It won't always be this bad. Yes, it will. My Gram's never coming back. My leg's not getting any better. It may take a while, but your leg will improve. Pat wanted to tell Vanessa about ISI, but she still hadn't heard from Marcus. Vanessa whacked her thigh. Kids make fun of me. Darlene never made fun of you, did she? Pat propped an elbow on the table. That's different. She's my friend. I used to have lots of friends. I used to have lots of clothes. I used to have lots of fun. I miss the way we used to be. Your life will never be exactly like it was, but it won't always be that hard. I promise you that. Pat rubbed the spot where Vanessa had slapped her leg. But you have to help your mother. She's doing all she can, but you have to get rid of that chip off your shoulder. Yes, you do. This is hard. I know that. But you're a big girl, almost a teenager. You know your mother didn't do this on purpose. It's not her fault. It's not your fault either. I know what your father did hurt you, but you can't take your anger toward him out on one person you know loves you. It's not fair. It isn't fair, is it, Patricia? Vanessa looked at Pat and sighed. Okay, end the lecture. She got up. We learned about Kwanzaa in school last year. If you want, I could tell you what I remember. Pat sat back down. I'm all ears. Vanessa and Pat had 3/4 of the puzzle together when Gail got back. They all finished it after dinner. When Gail took Vanessa in, she got the biggest goodnight hug she had in a while, then came out to talk with Pat. Deep breath, 1 foot forward. Gail told Pat about her visit with Marcus. Don't get mad, because you know better. You can talk to him about Vanessa's problem behind my back, I might add, but you won't talk about your own. But that's all I'm going to say on it, because you both so accurately pointed out it's not my business. Did Marcus act like he missed me? Why don't you call and ask him? Better yet, go see him. It's easier to talk face to face. He'll be in Philly for a week, a basketball clinic or something for high school kids. He wants to work it out, Pat. I don't know. Now who's being hard-headed? Gail let it drop and outlined her plans to spend the next several days canvassing employment agencies. She even figured she'd try a temp agency. Maybe she could get a few days here and there, anything to tie her over and help her feel like she was making progress. I'm not giving up on Elle. That'll be my other job, the one to grow on, and it's the one I love, so I'll keep doing it. But I still like that loan. Funny, I was looking for a place to live last January, too. No steps backward, Gail. January, a new year, a better year. So I know I said I was going to finish this up, but I actually need to answer some messages that I got coming in. And it's 2 chapters left. I thought it was just 2 just now. So I'll tune back in with chapter 29 and 30 later on today. We're going to get it done today. All right. Peace.